it's just hard to believe it's the same bike.
Also, as part of this, while they're getting the bike ready, this is your book. Okay, so that's it. Taken yesterday. So look at what we did, Kevin. I was searching the internet. This is actually the ad for. They called it Dynamite on Wheels. So, you know, and then here's at Barber this year. They had one on display.
Oh my goodness!
And here's the write-up, and this where it says, okay, possibly the Ultimate 3 Scrambler married to the matchless frame, which you knew about, and the Atlas motor built off of a road bike that challenged the 650 Triumphs because it needed more power. Produced the P11, also known as the Cheetah, the P11A, finally the Ranger. But as the P11A, which this one is, there were only 254 of them made. And here's another story off of the internet, and this actually gets into the guy's name. There's a guy out in California, Bob Blair, and he was a desert racer, and he was the one that was getting beat riding Nortons because it was a 650 displacement by all the Triumph guys. So he saw this matchless frame, and so he took the Atlas motor and put it in the matchless frame. And actually, then what he did, he took a damaged matchless, replaced it with the 750 Norton. After the success of testing it, he shipped it back to London. That's how that was the prototype.
Wow!
For the production.
And Project 11, I never knew.
Yeah. So, and then here's a little more background. Years it's produced. It actually won the World Championship, the California Desert Race Championship, in 1968. And then we have a series of photos.
Oh my goodness! Incredible.
Looks a little different. You know, those old handlebars. Dave, did you bring those handlebars back in? Cool. Now, so this is yours to take.
Thank you very much.
And I've got all this stuff on digital. I'll get them all put onto digital stuff. I got about 250 photos. So.
Thank you.
I can remember when Bryce first took the engine apart, was sitting on that bench over there. And first of all, the cylinders were just jammed in there. They were totally stuck. So, and the valves, they would not move. Here's like a pre and post of the rear.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is down where they rebuilt all the harness and the switches. Here, look at the side of the motor. As soon as they pulled that cover off.
I mean, it was sitting there for over 30 years.
30 years.
I inherited when I was 12. I am 41. And so, it was just sitting there.
So then I put a picture of David and Bryce in here as well, since they did all the work, and then our store and their cards.
Awesome.
And then, I was told it has a unique start procedure. The guys will take you through that.
Basically, starting from front to back. The brakes were good. We just cleaned up the wheels.
Come in.
Tightened the spokes. Obviously put new rubber in it, fresh tubes. The front fender wasn't the correct one, so this is actually made out of Big D of Dallas. So that is the OEM style front fender. The fork boots weren't on there.
Right.
The forks were actually rebuilt to the point where they had to custom make upper fork tubes from scratch because of this rarity of the model. So it wasn't just a quick, easy rebuild. They actually had to machine parts to get the front end forks put back together and done correctly. Obviously polished them, cleaned them up pretty well. Painted the dog ears, mounted the headlight. That's all painted pieces. Those things are actually have a little bit of filler in them to make sure they're nice and smooth. Yep, modified this so that the stock just kind of clips on.
Yeah.
And the first time we fired it up, it actually vibrated loose. So we had to put a little piece of sheet metal in there, put a popper of it, and then a screw to help mount it. Stock style gauges. They actually have the cables that run down and everything. And then obviously the handlebars that you had on there weren't even period correct.
Right.
Little askew. So we put what we consider the Clubman style bars on there. New grips, new levers, new throttle housing. But this is the original horn button and high-low switch. So high-low switch, and that's
Yeah.
all mechanical.
Yeah,
It's
so
got a
the
little
lights,
spring
yeah,
in
so
it.
that's
So horn button works. So that's pretty classic piece there. Try to keep that as original as possible. Obviously, the levers are a little different.
Now this is mechanical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100% mechanical in there. So it's got 2 posts and a kind of a wedge that's got a spring loaded to it, and it kind of goes between the 2 posts.
So it really is just a high-low. That's all it does.
Yeah, that's all it does. Obviously, the tank was redone, cleaned up the gas cap, remounted it, resealed it.
David, actually, where'd you get this pen at?
I made that, took that one of the little cartridges, plywood, cut it and notched it and put those little E-clips on there.
Yeah, because there wasn't any retainer on your old one. It
Yeah.
actually had a cotter pin in it.
Oh, awesome.
Came out pretty clean.
So David got these little E-clips, and I said, hey, I was trying to find something the right size. I just went over to Home Depot and got
It clears the tank tree so you can flip it over without worrying about it.
Scratching the paint or
Yep,
something.
absolutely. Custom made the throttle cables. It's a 4 into 2 into 1 system, so we had to get those custom fit. Those weren't available to us anymore, so that was because some leg work had to go down to a shop that makes cables, had those custom made for us. Then obviously the top end of the motor is completely fresh, and pistons, rings, cylinders been bored.
welded up.
Welded,
Yeah,
yep,
right.
yep, it cracked, so it's been welded, that was another pretty big ordeal. Welding cast iron's a pretty difficult task. And then obviously we rebuilt the carbs. Those sat in the tank for about 2 weeks, getting all the varnish out of them and everything like that. Rebuilt those, cleaned up the velocity stacks, obviously put the high pipes on it. And then obviously we rebuilt the carbs. Those sat in the tank for about 2 weeks, getting all the varnish out of them and everything like that. Rebuilt those, cleaned up the velocity stacks, obviously put the high pipes on it, mounted the shifter, mounted the kickstart. We had actually modified this foot peg mount, and it was bent at so the foot peg would be about this angle. So
Bent or if it was just built wrong, put together.
yeah, so we actually had to cut this cylinder off and then re-weld it with the correct placement so that the bolt that runs to the plate over here actually was at the correct angle, so the foot peg wouldn't be pointing towards the sky. So that was a pretty big ordeal as well. So had to cut it, re-weld it, clean it up, paint it, make it look proper. Obviously put some new rubbers on there for you.
What other parts did you guys fabricate? David, you fabricated this pen. You had to refabricate this.
The brackets for, say, the regulator.
Yeah, the brackets for the regulator rectifier, which is up here. And that's off a Harley Davidson. So all the components are off a modern motorcycle that you can replace easily, repair easily. It's not what the stock stuff was, which is Lucas Electronics, which is everybody, when you talk about Lucas Electronics, they go, oh man, that's a nightmare. That's a serious
It's a negative
nightmare.
and positive system.
Yep, so it's what they consider backward flowing, positive ground. So there's a lot of current rectifiers and diodes and stuff like that to keep the electricity going in the right direction. This is actually a coil off of a Harley Davidson, dual fire coil. So like I said, the ignition system has been updated to the point where it's going to be, not current, but current where you can replace the parts and be able to not spin an arm and a leg if something does occur.
You guys had to have a cam made too.
Under here is the points. Underneath there's a points.
Yeah.
There's a camshaft inside of there that will open and close the point. Obviously had the seat redone, painted the, powder coated the frame, redid the rear wheel. We actually had the speedo drive cables and the tachometer drive cables found.